Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Unit Lost. I am Stylosa and I'm joined by some very special guests today. I've got Darwin. Some of you guys may know him from the absolutely crazy mods he's been doing in the workshop. But I'm also joined by Dan and Keith from the Overwatch team who made the workshop. Hello, guys. Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
How's it going?
Awesome. All right, guys. So what we're going to do is just talk about the workshop. So there's kind of two things we want to go into detail on this. The first thing is just like, I guess, where the workshop came from and all of that stuff. And then we'll probably get a little bit more technical as Darwin comes in with some, frankly, questions that are just going to go way over my head. I have no idea. I don't even know what a loop is. Like, I mean, they're laughing at me, but hey. Yeah, so I guess, where did the idea come from? Like, I know you guys did you kind of have those, like, jam sessions, don't you, where you just get to kind of...
Yeah.
bash things out and kind of go for it. But how long ago did you sort of put the groundwork in place for the workshop?
Yeah, I think actually Dan and I have been talking about doing something like this since back in like 2016. We've just been chatting about like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could give players the ability to use some of the tools that we have internally? And just kind of like, it was just a thought, and we kind of planted that thought in our own heads. And then when it came around to, I think 2017 was our first like kind of jam session where we got a couple days to work on it. And it was actually, I came up to Dan and asked him just kind of, hey, what do you want to work on? Like, what kind of thing do you want to do for this jam session? And he actually suggested, hey, why don't we do that scripting system that you talked about like a year ago or something like that? And so we spent a couple days there.
Yeah, as soon as he came up with the idea way back, I don't even remember when that was. You sort of first started talking about it, maybe 2016-ish, sometime. But as soon as he brought it up, I was like, yes, we should totally do that someday, because of course we were busy doing 100 other things.
Yeah.
But we always had it in the back of our head. And then we had some time to sort of experiment with it. We're always given a few days a year just to sort of mess around, make cool things. So yeah, 2017 is when we did our first attempt at that and showed it to the team, and it got some people liking it and everything. But then we didn't really do anything with it for about another year.
Yeah.
And then in 2018, we basically took it a step further. Like, let's just work on it again, because we got those 2 days again.
Yeah.
And that was in November. And at that point, it was cool enough, I guess, that we got buy-in from a bunch of people, and then we worked on it for real.
Yeah.
And fast forward to today.
Yeah, we were pretty familiar with the capabilities of our scripting system, so we knew how it could be kind of adapted to expose it for players to be able to use.
That's cool. So 4 days, is that what you're telling me? It took you 4 days to get the basic outline of it together.
It took us 4 days to realize that we wanted to work on it, in a capacity that could actually ship. But 4 days was just sort of the prototype.
Yeah, the first couple of days we were like, hey, can this thing even work? And we made one game mode, and then we made a silly thing in the first couple of days, which is I think the first game mode was get the Zenyatta to the end of King's Row without letting him die. And the second one was, hey, like, it was just a funny mode where as soon as you got your ultimate, you were forced to use it. So if you're like running around as Reinhardt and you got your ultimate, you press Q immediately, which I guess is not that different for most people. Maybe you can't tell. But yeah, so you'd be running around as Tracer and you throw a pulse bomb out, and just to prove the idea was there.
That's cool. So is this so you say it was built off the scripting system that you guys were using internally. Is this similar to like how you guys develop new game modes?
Actually,
I mean, I guess you guys obviously got more freedom, right? I mean, this is.
Yeah, well, what's funny is that one of the level designers came by the other day, and he was playing around with the workshop at home, and he was saying how actually some things are faster to do in the workshop than it is to do in our internal system, because we've kind of combined a lot of functionality together to make it easier for players. So it's actually very similar to what we use normally for prototyping game modes, although obviously we have a lot more control over things. We can obviously use our own custom assets and things, but generally the way the rules are working, we've exposed a lot of what we do normally for making a game mode inside the workshop.
So it takes advantage of a lot of the sort of underlying mechanics of our scripting system, just for performance reasons and things like that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, we know you guys, you're the workshop guys now, but what actually is your role on the Overwatch team before the whole workshop thing exploded?
So I'm the lead gameplay engineer.
Yeah, and I'm a senior gameplay engineer. I do a lot of scripting stuff with our internal scripting system. So it was sort of a natural progression to go from there to the workshop.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, how long did it take to get the initial PTR launch build together?
Oh, I think we've been working on it since like December
Yeah.
of last year.
Mm.
Yeah, I think we went to PTR in, was it April?
Yeah.
I guess. So about
March.
about 5 months if you're counting that. I mean, we
Yeah.
were doing other things during that
Oh
time.
yeah, yeah.
It's sort of hard to say like exactly how much time it's taking because of course we're doing other things too. But yeah, probably about 5 months.
Yeah, we actually got a lot of help along the way too. It was first just Dan and I prototyping things, but we obviously needed help to get this out the door. We needed help from artists to make effects and sounds, and sound designers to make sounds, and we needed help from designers and QA. And so a lot of people jumped on board to make sure the workshop was ready.
What did it feel like then when you got like the green light for this? Because I can imagine you guys sitting around like a big conference table, and then suddenly you're giving the green light to the workshop, and you're like, "Yes, come on, let's go."
I think it was like 2017 that we showed Kaplan this right after, because I don't think he had a chance to see it when we presented it, and so we brought him by our desks and just showed him, "Hey, this is kind of an idea we had," and he was like, "Oh, how soon can you ship this thing?" So we kind of like, I think we talked more after that, and we just wanted to make sure that it was okay. And yeah, we kind of like, everyone was kind of on board from the very beginning. I think as game developers, we kind of saw a lot of the potential with something like this to empower the players to make content. So yeah, everyone's really supportive of us making this.
Yeah, I remember when Kaplan was there and he was looking at it on Keith's machine.
Yeah.
And he was just like, okay, well, go for it.
It's so cool. All right, I'm going to put you guys on the spot. Now, remember, we've got Darwin here, like, so be careful what you're about to say. What is your favorite mode created so far?
Oh, geez.
Man.
No, it's cool. It's cool. Don't worry.
Well, I definitely think the aim trainer stuff has been really cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Anna aim trainer and the Arista stuff has been great. I've already seen some videos of people using what they learned from there to launch projectiles from really far away places. So I think you've kind of changed the course of Overwatch for some players.
That was the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool.
There was a mode that came out recently called I think it's you have to keep bouncing or keep bouncing. What's it called?
Oh yeah, the Reinhardt bouncing ball one.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
which
yeah.
was I just thought it was incredibly creative. Like it would have taken me 100 years to think of that mode. You know, like I thought that was really
Yeah, it's cool. I think my friends and I have been playing a lot of like the Agar.io game where you had the Roadhog hook one. That's been great. And obviously playing traffic is a classic at this point. So if you haven't tried that, you should give it a try.
The McCree hot potato is also really cool.
Oh yeah,
cool.
that is surprisingly addictive. The McCree hot
Yeah.
potato.
Yeah.
Darwin, I guess you can go crazy with some technical questions then. So, obviously, guys, like I said at the top of the video, the reason why we've got Darwin is like, I call him the god of the workshop, and he knows this. But some of the stuff he does is crazy. Like just the ideas that are coming out and the game modes that are getting put together. So I thought it would be cool if we had like a more sort of technical aspect to this, because obviously I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm doing in the workshop. Well, actually, I'm not an idiot. I'm not an idiot. I've got to be real. Actually, the workshop did open my eyes to just kind of the way the game functions behind the scenes a little bit. It sort of pulled back the curtain a little bit, and it kind of gave me a little bit of insight there. So it was super cool for that. But anyway, Darwin, go crazy.
I have a couple of questions that like really bother myself and community. And one of them is like, why don't we have custom variable names? I'm just really curious why is it like that? What's behind that?
Yeah, actually, when we were making it, we all very much talked about like, we should really let people make their own variable names. When we're shipping the workshop, it was kind of, we're trying to prioritize as many things as we could to add as much content as possible. We definitely talked about letting you edit variable names. We just figured like for the first release, we want to see how, is it just us that wants like custom variable names? Like how much are people actually going to want?
No,
to use
everybody.
Obviously, I think it turned into something that's like, I think it's a very obvious choice. Definitely something that we can add. I think we're not against the idea. More just our first release was like, let's just see what we can do with the existing variable names. And we even talked about adding more variables too, because I know that 26 is not quite enough. It was just kind of like, hey, do we even need variables? I think we even asked that question initially, like, hey, do we even need variables? Like this was back in 2017 when we first prototyping. And I don't think we even used variables in that first prototype.
It changed. The workshop changed quite a bit from when it was first incepted, I guess. There was so much stuff we didn't have. We didn't have values that could be composed of other values. We didn't even have the concept of values.
Yeah, everything was a hard-coded number. So if you wanted to apply an impulse, it had to be a hard-coded value.
So if something's missing from the workshop, there's a good chance that it's just something we haven't gotten to yet. It's not like we've made a conscious decision, you can't have this, you can't have this.
We're trying to make the most of our time. We're focused on shipping the version out so players can start making content. And then, as you might have seen, we've been adapting and upgrading it over PTR and new patches. So we're definitely looking to support it moving forward.
The PTR patch is really amazing. It's
Mhm.
just such a drastic change from what we got on release, and now with the dark theme, first of all,
Yes.
and the text-based scripting, it's just like opens a whole new world, really.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask. You said we have a lot coming. Is there any chance that at any point we as a community can get some sort of public roadmap for the workshop, just to see what you guys have in mind, what you have planned, and when can we expect that?
Generally, it's a little tricky to share that stuff because sometimes we don't know exactly what we're going to want to do because some of it's based on community feedback. We definitely have a few things which we're looking at longer term that we can talk about a little bit, but generally, because things change so much and we're not sure, it's better for us not to promise something because we don't know if it ends up not being able to ship because of other priorities. So, I don't know. I think what we're going to try to do is make sure that we're trying to be as vocal as we can on like the forums and sharing information when we get to it and responding to feedback where we can. So we're trying to remain open with communication. We were posting on the forums, over at PTR forums and then the workshop forums, which we haven't really done before, but hopefully we can be engaged with the community that way.
Yeah, we're always trying to keep our finger on the pulse. We're reading the forums, reading Reddit and everything. So we have a sense of what the priorities are for the community. So we'll do our best to pay attention to that and give you guys what we can.
Yeah,
Thank
we'd
you.
like to have a back and forth for sure, like especially with content creators like you. So
Yeah. All right, Sty, what do you have?
I quite like the would we be getting access to any of the like the bots and such from various events, like maybe the dropships for Retribution? Could we get access to that scripting so we could fly dropships? And by the way, they totally look like XCOM 2 dropships as well.
Yeah,
I know this. I know this because this is actually, I've just taken this off my wall. That is an XCOM dropship.
Oh yeah.
And it's on my wall.
I can see that.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, well, access to like bot scripting that you guys have already done. Or AI scripting,
So you mean,
I don't even
like
know
the
what the term
bots
is.
and stuff?
Yeah.
We asked around a little bit, and it probably is going to be a little tricky. Those units were specifically made for those maps and those modes, and don't tend to work well outside of that environment where you're on like a specific mission. So it's unlikely that it happened in the short term. It's not off the table, but more it's just there's enough work there. It's not as simple as just saying, oh yeah, go ahead, you can spawn them in and they'll behave properly. More it's like you probably spawn them in and who knows what they would do. We just don't even have behavior for what does an Omnic like robot do in a standard payload map? I mean, who knows, right? So there are some issues that we'd have to work through. So it's another one of those things which we'd love to do. I understand there's a ton of value. Players want to make a lot of PvE content, so we're definitely keeping an eye on that. But as it currently stands, we don't have any for it.
Is there a way to give us like a sort of a dummy, so we can spawn a hero without any AI behavior and without player tied to it? Because if you guys saw the like Reinhardt practice I made or something like that, I have to put an AFK player for that to work, and then I program the behavior.
Yeah, we definitely have something we want to do to make that easier for you guys.
Yeah,
so we've been talking about that specific thing a lot.
Yeah, it's actually something I wanted to add a lot earlier, but we kind of didn't have time. So definitely either hopefully it's one, you can also add a bot to your game just like you can through a custom game dynamically, so you can just add an AI controlled bot, but also just add a Genji that's just standing there and does nothing but you have to control all the ability usage. So for your Ana sleep trainer would be perfect for that. We definitely we have an interest in that, and I think that's probably something that wouldn't be too difficult to do, but in reality, like it's again one of those things we're trying to find time to do it.
Yeah, that's definitely in the quadrant that's like high desirability and relatively low cost. Compared to some of the other quadrants. So we'll be getting to that, I think, at some point
hopefully.
Soon.
That's really cool. What about sharing? There's also another big thing right now that I see a lot of people want is permanent mod codes. Like we can share a code, and people want their specific preset to be tied to that code forever. So that because there's a big problem that you sometimes go into the custom games and you find a lobby with your mod, and you go in and you see the person using like an older version, an outdated version of that, and you tell them, "Can you please use this code? It's much better." And the person's like, "No." So if we could have like permanent codes, that would be pretty great as well.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying like a code that as you update the mode, the code itself has the updated content in it,
Yeah,
so you don't have to
exactly.
reissue new code. Yeah, we talked about that originally. Where we settled on right now was you generate a code, and it's kind of a one-time usage thing. Because there's a few challenges surrounding like having a code update its contents dynamically after you've already published it. I think what we're really looking for though is I think we recognize that there's a need for better kind of curation and better kind of awareness of what modes are available and a
Yeah.
way for players to find those modes easier. I think we would definitely recognize a problem, whether it's through persistent codes or whether it's through an updated browser experience, or I'm not really sure exactly the right way to solve it, but we are talking about that stuff because we definitely recognize a need. I mean, I myself have found issues with like, hey, I'd like to play this specific mode, and who knows which version of it that they're playing.
Yeah.
So I think, we recognize that. I think it's not an easy challenge to solve. So I think it's definitely something we've talked about quite a bit. Is actually one of the we want to get the workshop out with the existing custom game browser, and then later we can talk about like, okay, well, how can we make this experience even better if it does get popular? Like, who knows if people are even going to use the workshop when we ship it, right? So that was kind of our thinking when we initially launched.
Yeah, we had no idea what the reception was going to be.
Yeah.
We're like, well, maybe like a few people will make some modes, and we'll just go back to doing what we were always doing. And everyone will forget about it.
Yeah.
But I remember the interview I did with Jeff before the workshop came out. I think it was after the workshop came out. I think it was just before the workshop came out, and he's like, "Yeah, something's coming that you won't you won't expect it." And I'm like, "What? Fixed competitive? I'm just I'm just down that train." And then I'm like, "What is this? This is exactly what we need." Because I mean, when you look at the history of Blizzard games, Dota was spawned from mods. There's just so much. It's such a rich history with modding. So it's great to see it in Overwatch. Yeah, I know you guys can't talk about features that are coming out, but you must have something which is fairly close or ready to sort of go into the next build that maybe you could talk about a little bit for the workshop, or maybe just like a general direction that you're taking it in.
Yeah, I think we can just kind of talk about general direction. I mean, obviously, we've mentioned that we're kind of keeping an eye on player feedback. One of the things we're recognizing too is we want to make sure that players are understanding the performance cost of their workshop as well, because I think the way it's being handled right now could be improved. So we are looking into making it a little bit more clear if your scripts that you're authoring are a little bit too expensive or why it might be expensive. We definitely talked about some of the things that we mentioned, which is like adding a dummy player. That's one of the big things. Expanding the ability to maybe even variable names is another thing that people have been mentioning. But there are so many pieces of feedback that actually we're kind of trying to make sure to prioritize the user experience. Like, so things like stability and performance are really big for us, and then adding extra functionality as well. So adding things like, I think we just added arc cosine and arc sine, for instance, so you can get the angle out of a dot product result. But things like that are community is asking for. So we're hoping that we can continue to take small steps for now. We don't have anything. We can't really talk about anything big yet because I think we haven't really figured out exactly the direction we're going to go with a lot of the bigger features. But definitely, we're going to continue supporting it and moving forward, like in incremental steps.
You guys should totally do like a deep dive at BlizzCon. Do a panel on the workshop. I'll be there in the crowd. Do it.
Yeah, at the very least, it'd be cool to do like a meet and greet or something, right?
Sure,
so to meet some people who work on the workshop.
Has the size of your team increased, and is there a workshop team, or is it just spread out across the gameplay team?
Well, the way that we do development,
you're getting more resources, I guess. That's
the... Well, I mean, currently, I think it's kind of just a few people working on it. So we have QA support, and we have some designer support as well. And of course, Dan and I are working on it. We initially did a really strong push with a big team. We work in like feature groups here on Overwatch. So we get a group of talented people together to work on a feature, and then we ship that feature, and then we see kind of what direction we should take next. So as it currently stands, those people have kind of moved on. Some of the other developers have moved on to other tasks and features, and we're kind of keeping an eye on the forums and implementing bug fixes. But right now, I would say most of the development team is QA and Dan and us, and a designer or two.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, what plans do you have for content for the workshop? Because right now we only have like 5 or 6 visual effects and 5 or 6 sound effects.
Yeah.
And what would have been absolutely incredible is just to get access to existing. No, I'm not even saying about custom assets like models and stuff, but just to existing projectiles and explosions and sound effects, to put that onto anything. How
Yeah.
difficult is that to do? And is there anywhere? Is it on your roadmap as well?
Yeah, we have conversations near daily about adding new effects and
Yeah.
things like that. It's difficult to just sort of open up the entire library of features and effects and models for technical reasons. Honestly,
We have talked about adding other effect types like beams.
Right.
We have discussed projectile types or things with trails at length. It's definitely it's one of those things where we definitely want to add it. It's not too challenging technically, and in fact, most of it was, hey, let's see what we can do with the initial primitives, and now we have a good idea of how reliant people are on those
Yeah.
effects, and we kind of have a good idea of like, yeah, I think beams would be really big.
Yeah.
I think having the ability to create an effect between 2 points would be really huge,
Yeah.
along with having the ability to have something that has a trail, because I think the way that people are doing some effects with trails
In
as
a
a
loop.
projectile is
that
yeah,
loops.
it's not it's not exactly what we're hoping for.
Yeah, we definitely need something that has sort of particles that stay behind in world space.
Yeah.
because, the way it's being done right now is very efficient.
Yeah. So we're looking to improve that. When I talk about performance and efficiency, that's kind of one of the things we're looking.
Hmm.
So yeah, we
Yeah.
definitely want to add more effects and sound.
That's awesome. That's what people really want. And also Control Z, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, undo. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, Darwin. Have you got any other questions? Anything else you'd like to talk about?
I have a bunch of. It's not even
Go for
questions.
it.
It's more of requests. Like, for example, as we get deeper into understanding how the game works with the workshop, it's really awesome. What is barrier, and how will we be able to access barrier as an entity, or make something into a barrier and make something behave like a barrier? Like,
Yeah, we've talked about adding more entities besides. Right now, you can mostly access players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should probably need to do a pass on how entities are handled in workshops, so that we can open the door to things like barriers and projectiles and other types of
Yeah.
entities you might have. That's on our list.
Yeah. We've talked about, like, for instance, we call them props,
Right.
or for instance, you could spawn a target entity that you
Yeah.
could have respond to damage or to interaction. So you could create things like a target trainer, or having the ability to spawn a barrier. Like, imagine you could spawn something that's a spherical barrier, like Winston's bubble or Reinhardt's wall, anywhere in the map. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Those are things that I think would expand the functionality quite a bit. And yeah, we agree that there's a need for it, but as it currently stands, we haven't really figured out exactly what we're going to do with that moving forward. We're talking about effects for sure. Adding props and entities is a little difficult because one of the constraints we have is the number of entities that we let you create. That's why we limit the number of effects we let you create in the workshop, because of performance reasons. So we are keeping a very close eye on that.
No, I was quite disappointed about that when I was using your painting mod, Darwin. I was painting away, then it just
Only
started erasing. I'm
128.
like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah.
That was a very creative use, by the way, of the workshop.
Yeah.
Did not think
Yeah,
of that
people
one.
Yeah.
people found some great uses for that tool. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was putting smiley faces on everything
Yep.
in Kings Row.
Yeah. It's glowing as well because it collides with the wall, and shader works glowy.
Yeah.
It's really
Yep.
nice.
Yeah, it's emissive.
Christmas
Yeah.
lights everywhere.
Mhm.
What about custom strings? And I understand that there are some obvious limitations why you didn't put that. And is it anything that we should ever expect? Because sometimes we want to put the rules of the mode on screen, because people rarely read description of the mode,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that would have been
Yeah, we-
also pretty great.
Yeah, we recognize that's one of the most requested features.
Yeah.
We have email threads going on about it right now, so
Yeah,
we're
there
trying
are,
to do what we can with it.
yeah, there are definitely some concerns, just as far as not just abuse, but also requirements and how it's implemented. We want to make it something that's are we going to let you write an entire novel, for instance, or is
Yeah.
it just going to be small strings? We definitely recognize that the description, for instance, is important for a lot of game modes, and people tend to just jump in and try to figure it out as they go. Yeah, we that's one of the next things that we actually are talking about for sure. We don't have any estimate or timeline on when that could go
I
in,
imagine,
but
yeah.
we're definitely talking about it right now.
Yeah, I see you guys have a lot coming. Have a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really inspiring.
Yeah.
The whole thing is such a great success. I think everyone agrees that this is the best update in the history of Overwatch. At least that's how I feel, for sure. And my game development career started off with Warcraft 3 map editor, and I think many others as well. And I'm quite certain that this thing will also, like, in a couple of years, you will get a lot of applications in
Yeah.
Blizzard from people who
Yeah.
started their path in Workshop.
Hopefully, yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Wow, yeah, that'd be a real honor if that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, this will happen for sure.
I mean, it is like in terms of like how good the update was to the game. Like, I mean, from me as like a standard Overwatch player, I guess I just all I would do is play competitive, and I would play it until I tilted, then I'd stop playing, then I'd come off the game. But now I don't. I'd stop playing and I'd go into the workshop and I'd mess about, and I didn't really have that sort of happy-go-lucky fun experience. Like, it was intensive, and then
Yeah.
now I need to go and sit away in a dark corner and have a cold shower or whatever to bring myself back. But now it's like, hey, I'll just go and play whatever the hell is in the workshop, and it's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Like, I
Well, that's
enjoy
great.
this.
Yeah, that's always something we talked about. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just was saying, like, it resets my mind. Like, it gives me another way of experiencing the game, and that is just awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, we were always concerned with how we pace things. You play a bunch of games, you're really serious, you're really getting into it, and then what can you do to sort of blow off steam?
Yeah.
And the arcade sort of fit that to some extent, but we wanted something more. And so we're actually really pleased that the workshop has turned out to be sort of a way for people to do that.
Yeah, I love going into the game browser and just kind of seeing what's new and seeing if there's
Mhm.
anything different or interesting. And I love playing games, with my friends. And before going into competitive, just taking some time to just kind of relax. And Overwatch is meant to be it's a game, and some people get enjoyment out of playing a lot of competitive play. Some people enjoy quick play, and some people now enjoy making content for it, which is great.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that's one of the best things.
I don't even need to play competitive anymore, ever. I can just
Yeah.
watch it all day.
Yeah, we should give you like a little ranking based on how much content you make, right? So you can level up.
Yes,
No,
please.
no,
Yes,
no,
please.
no.
Yeah,
This is a bad
yeah. So you
idea.
can be like the top 500 workshop creator.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Yeah.
Oh no.
Are you gonna have any way of? Are you gonna add any of the modes into arcade rotation?
I was
Any of
going to
the
ask this,
user-
Darwin. You stole my question, but go ahead.
I'll just pretend that Stylosa asked.
Yeah.
it.
hang on. So
we-
what I was
yeah.
asking, guys, is like in the arcade, in the rotation, we have like mod of the day.
Right.
Yeah,
To-
that's a
totally
really
my
good question, Stylosa. Yeah, we've talked about it, and actually, prior to even shipping the workshop, we said, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if some modes were so popular that we could like take them and highlight them in the arcade?" And yeah, we're talking about that, and we would love to reach out to the community, and we're kind of figuring out the best way to do it. I think this goes back to my earlier statement of like, is the arcade the best place to put it, or do we need an improvement to the game browser to really highlight more than just one game mode? And I think that discussion is still up in the air. I think you guys have been doing great with posting to the Reddit and to the workshop code sharing page, and content creators like you are obviously making the workshop codes more visible. But there are creators out there that don't necessarily post on Reddit, and we don't want to neglect those. And they're making some really great game modes too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we would love to. We're definitely actually in talks about it right now, about figuring out how do we reach out to you guys and make sure to pull some of the more interesting game notes so that they're more visible.
That's great. Yeah. If I can go on with basically, I have before this talk, I tried to separate. Like, I asked my community to give me a list of questions they have to you guys, and about not 1% was questions and 99% was just requests.
Feature
Yeah,
requests,
that's-
yeah.
That's normally the way it goes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Give me
we're
this.
used to
Give me
that.
this.
Yes.
Yeah.
We would love to give as much stuff as we could, for sure.
Yeah. There's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if we could do anything to help you guys with that somehow.
I mean,
would
the
love
feedback
to.
that's been being given so far has been great. I think we're noticing trends. Obviously, things like custom strings are a big part of it. We're definitely looking into that. But yeah, there's a lot of smaller requests here and there.
Like
Things
the-
like values that you guys want, or even just for now, some strings that you'd like to get added are really helpful, because those are really straightforward to put
Like
in.
the copy paste to text, so
Yeah.
you can take it out in the clipboard.
Yeah, that was
That
great.
that came from the community.
Yeah,
So that's why we
totally.
jumped on that.
Oh. Someone already made a custom syntax highlight for that thing, so you can
Yeah,
copy paste
we were
them.
seeing it.
Seen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. As we're not getting any map editor anytime soon, I imagine. Although I hope it's somewhere on the roadmap. Can we get some kind of testing room, like an extra
Yeah,
map
the
that's
dev
available
room.
just for the workshop? Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah, the war room.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I think right after workshop shipped, that was one of the earliest requests. Is can I just have a really small level that lets me play test without having to load into a map?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't speak to the status of that. We definitely recognize like having like a small room that either is for like a game mode or just for skirmish would be great. Letting you practice and try out different modes in them. So yeah, we would love to do that. Obviously, we would love to do a map editor too. I think that's one of the. Also, as you might think, it's incredibly challenging and there's a lot of work involved with something like a map editor. But yeah, I don't think having a custom map is out of the question for sure. We've definitely talked about it. I think you'll find that a lot of the feature requests that are coming in are things that we've already discussed.
Yeah.
Because I think
Yeah.
we're definitely recognizing a lot of that, and I think we're just echoing that. Yes, we would like to do
Yeah,
that.
as we were getting closer to ship, it's like, oh shoot, we don't have this, we don't have this, we don't have this.
Yeah.
It's like there are always more things
Yes.
that you could
Yeah.
add, but at some point you want to release it.
Yeah.
because You can't just hold on to it forever.
Yeah, we kind of made the decision to ship it, kind of as early as we could. That we felt like it was ready enough, without necessarily every single possible feature that we wanted to have. Things like variable names or custom strings, just because we felt like there was enough there to let the community start making content without necessarily. Like, I understand it's a little tricky to do some things, but you guys have been really creative and finding ways to even make content. I think, kind of like limitations breeds creativity in a lot of ways too.
For
So
sure.
I think you'll find ways to work around it for now. We're definitely looking for ways to make it better for you, but I think it's really at a point where we're pretty happy with what community has been able to make, and we're looking right now to see where we're going to go next. Yep.
Even before you guys started raycasting, people made Ray Martian like to simulate raycasting.
Yeah, we
was-
saw that. We're like,
Yeah.
oh, we should probably add
Yeah,
raycast.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the biggest things we noticed. Yeah, because the way that was being done before was very inefficient.
Right.
So
Yeah.
It's like, well, we don't want to give them raycast. It'll be too inefficient. Oh, wait, now they're doing this. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why we lowered the wait interval, the minimum
Yeah.
time, from a quarter of a second to 16 milliseconds, because people were finding workarounds
Yeah.
to increase
It's like,
the frequency.
Well, we could keep fighting the workarounds, but is that really the right approach, or should we just
Nah.
give them what they want?
We'll find a new one anyway.
Yeah. It's cat and mouse. We're not going to win that one.
It ended up not being too impactful in the long run to increase the loop frequency, but yeah, we're keen on making sure that the experience is good for most people.
And actually, the decision I think we reached is to make performance sort of owned by the scripter, and to do that, we're going to add some capabilities to figure out what the current server load is, and like, can you do more? And you could even like display it on the screen if you wanted to see, how bad is it right now. So we're going to provide some way to do that. So then we can add even more stuff, and it can be up to the creator to see if performance is in measure.
Yeah. The other day I've accidentally created a really fast loop that was creating bad aura, and it created 128 bad auras on my screen, and my FPS dropped from 200 to 24. It felt great.
Yeah, that was another decision we made early on. It's like, look, we're not going to be able to keep them from tanking the frame rate.
No.
That's if you want to do that, I mean, that's your experience.
Yeah. There's currently existing workflow, or I guess pipeline, that we can't share codes from live to PTR and back right now. Is this the way it will be in the future as well?
Yeah, it's going to be this way. We run into problems copying codes from live to PTR at this point, because now they've diverged in the code generation. So you might have duplicate codes that we have to reconcile. That's one of the reasons why the copy and paste as text was really important, because you can take the stuff that you do in PTR right now and just save it locally. And then when the patch releases, just import it that way. And so that's how it's going to be for the future PTRs. And you can imagine 3 years from now, the future PTRs, how much they will have diverged at that point. So yeah, I think, but after this patch, you'll be able to take your work from live and bring it to PTR as well if you need to, by the text feature.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, it is. Honestly, it is just so cool. It's such a. I think like the best praise you can give a feature is, why the hell wasn't this out when the game launched? You know what I mean? It's like, give it me. It's so good. It's awesome.
Yeah, we didn't know how it was going to be received. We're blown away by what everyone's done. So.
Yeah, we're really happy with what everyone's been doing. So yeah, we're looking forward to what it's going to look like a year from now, 2 years from now.
I think if we had known it was going to be received this way, we probably would have done it sooner.
Yeah,
you never know, right? You never know what the community wants.
Yeah, it's kind of Yeah, as Jeff said, it's kind of an advanced user feature. So we didn't know, like, we knew that there are people out there that want to make content, but I think really it's been adopted by a lot of players, from just the content creators and the people that enjoy playing those modes too.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
If there are any game developers watching there, if you can release a game editor, do it. It will never ruin the game. People love modding games. That's what
Yeah.
keeps people and
Yeah.
games going.
Yeah, as Blizzard history has definitely shown, you know.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I'm all out of questions. Have you got anything else you really want to ask Darwin?
No, I think I got all I wanted.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Well, thank you for putting the workshop together, because it's like it lets me make videos that are not reading Jeff's comments off the forums, which is good. So thank you for that.
Yes. I've been enjoying your recent videos. Thanks, Darwin.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Darwin, promote yourself. Go. I don't know which side you're on. I'm pointing, but I probably changed this when I've edited it, but it's somewhere.
You probably will, yeah. Well, I'm Darwin. I stream on Twitch as Darwin Streams. And if you want to learn workshop, if you want to see how I make things, which could be suboptimal, but it still works, so come watch my Twitch. And also come subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I post some workshop guides and tutorials. So if you want to learn it, that's the place for you.
I'll stick the links in the video description as well, guys. All right, guys, thank you very much for taking part in this. It's been awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video as well. And yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Toodaloo.
All right. Take care.